Then along came the end of the war when we went across the channel, and that was absolutely unbelievable. Every plane that could fly took place in that operation. And I have never seen that many planes in the air before or since. The sky was literally dark.
Hi, this is Bruce Lindsay working with Elizabeth Gallo on our project to document the stories of veterans. Today we are with 102-year-old World War II veteran Sam Worley. Sam served in the European theater during World War II with the U.S. Army Air Corps.
Good afternoon. My name is Samuel W. Worley, born in June the 13th, 1921, in Tannisburg, Meadow Township, Franklin County, Pennsylvania. I like to talk about the Greatest Generation. Tom Brokaw, the newscaster, wrote a book, and he called it The Greatest Generation. Tom dedicated that book to his father, in honor of his father, who was born in 1921 on a farm in North Dakota. My darling daughter, Elaine, sent that to me for my birthday one year and said, "Dad, here you are. I, too, was born in 1921 on a farm, as I heretofore mentioned. So I am from the Greatest Generation. I lived through the Great Depression, I lived through probation, I lived through the building of the Great Pennsylvania Turnpike, and worked there when I got out of high school to earn enough of money to go to Shippensburg State Teachers College. And the room, board, and tuition at that time was $500. That's hard to believe. So I was drafted then on September the 19th, 1942, and I spent the most of my time in Europe, over 2 years in England. I left Chambersburg, not knowing anyone with the fellows that were drafted, and went to Fort Meade, Maryland. From Fort Meade, Maryland, I was sent to Danielfield, Georgia. Spent 5 weeks there. That's all the basic training I got. And then went from there to Drewfield, Florida, where I joined the 10th Fighter Wing headquarters. I immediately applied for cadet school and took my physical at Drewfield, Florida, and my mental over at McDillfield, Florida. And as the military has things progress through the regular channels, it didn't progress too rapidly. So I spent most of the winter in Florida. The next thing I knew, I was transferred to Mitchell Field, New York. From Mitchell Field, New York, I was transferred to the Norfolk Air Defense Wing. This is most unusual to go to a Navy area and be in the military. And I was already in intelligence then, of course. Our defense in that Air Force in the defense wing was so intense that I'd swear we even monitored the flies. And we didn't trust anybody. Didn't last there too long. I was transferred from there to the Boston Air Defense Wing and was stationed out at now called Hanscom. In the meantime, they sent me back over to Westover Field to renew my physical for the cadet school. And the next thing I knew, I was on the Hudson, treading water out in the middle of the Hudson to board the Queen Elizabeth from Pier 96. And being in the Air Force and our organization, we were the highest ranking organization. We were the last organization on the ship. And we They climbed all of the stairs going up to the promenade deck, and they said, "There is your space right there. Then we'll call you later." So of course, we were on our feet then for perhaps more than 24 hours, waiting to get on. There was such a large group getting on the ship. I understand there were 18,000 troops on the ship. You can verify that by uh, yes. Anyhow, I backed up against the one of the walls there outside the cabin, and I just slid right down along that, closed the wall, my baggage and everything, fell sound asleep, and missed the leaving the port of New York. We went. We had no escort. We The ship was so the pilot the he it changed position every so often, and we went to England. Went up to the Forth of Firth in Glasgow, and that's where we departed, Glasgow, Scotland, and they brought us by train down to the Midlands of England, and therefore my small group, and we were a very small organization. We were taken to the estate, and we were in awe. We couldn't believe that we were going to be on an English estate, but we soon found out that we were in very, very top secret position. And our position there was to receive the field order of the day from 8th Fighter Command Headquarters, decode that, take that information to the war room, and point out to the officers of intelligence and operations what the target of the day was going to be. And then the flight commanders would take that back to their own particular groups. We had 5 bomb groups and 5 fighter groups, and I could name those for you, but one in particular was Kingscliff, and that was the 20th Fighter Group, and we got some entertainment from time to time, and Glenn Miller was entertaining us at the Fighter Wing headquarters at Kingscliff in the hangar, big hangar, and he was just delightful, and he disappeared the next day. Glenn Miller. Have you heard about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the missions were pretty well organized. I can imagine the logistics that you can getting everything together and getting each bomb group together, each fighter group together, where they were going to, the fighters were going to give escort for the bombers. It was an undertaking that blows my mind even today. Then along came the end of the war when we went across the channel, and that was absolutely unbelievable. Every plane that could fly took place in that operation, and I have never seen that many planes in the air before or since. The sky was literally dark, and there's a word, I've seen it in print someplace, that there were somewhere between 11 and 13,000 planes. Of course, we were operations was extremely busy in those days, and we had a very good friendship with the English people, and we were right outside the big air base called Wittering, which is a big air base of up in the Midlands. It wasn't all work. I had the chance to get a few leaves, and I made the most of that. And I went to London, I went to Scotland, I went to Ireland, I went to Wales, and I have had the greatest admiration for the English people. I will say that they should be forever grateful to the United States, or they would be speaking Germany today. As you know, the war was over in 45, and I was scheduled to go to the island of Formosa, and rather get come home. So here I feel very grateful to Harry Truman for dropping the atomic bomb. However, oh, that's a death threat. However bad it was, but the Japanese people were so scattered out and everywhere that the war would last a long time if that would not have happened. So I came home, and as I mentioned earlier, a childhood sweetheart was waiting for me, waiting to get married, and we got married the 1st of June, 1946. I became gainfully employed at the National Bank of Chambersburg, and worked there for 35 years, and retired as Vice President Trust Officer. I had some, in the meantime, I had some nice schooling at various places, as I mentioned earlier, at Shippensburg State Teachers College, and I attended a year at Gettysburg and couldn't find myself together with everything I wanted to do. But I'm a graduate of Northwestern University Graduate School of Banking, and completed my thesis there in the advantages and disadvantages of joint property. And so I'm here today, very happy, living with by myself. I have a son and a daughter. My son Bill is he's not married. He lives alone, and my daughter is married, and she has 2 children, and I have a son and a daughter, and they each have 2 children. So I have 4 great-grandchildren, 2 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. In the meantime, I became involved in politics, and found that to be very exciting. And I have been involved in a great deal of activities in the community, such as the Masonic organization. I'm a past commander of the American Legion Post 46. I'm a past officer of the Orderstown Lodge, number 262, Free and Accepted Masons. Been very active in the Kiwanis Club since 1949, and a past president of that. And I'm a member of the Central Presbyterian Church, where I have been very active since 1954, serving as a deacon, a elder, superintendent of Sunday school, and I'm still active today. I was in church on Sunday.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your political career you mentioned earlier?
And the political career, there's one thing I'd like to mention about that. I became involved in the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs as the entire state of Pennsylvania. And incidentally, that's what this rig is. I'm a past president of the state association. And I know my way over the state pretty well. So I was president in 1983. While I was still on borough council, the State Association of Boroughs decided they needed some kind of an investment media for boroughs to invest their funds. So the borough of Emmaus and the borough of Chambersburg put up the seed money of $6 million in 1981. I'm a past officer of that organization, a past president of it. I'm still associated with the Pennsylvania State Association of Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, and we have grown from $6 million to $11 billion. And we have clients of over 3,000 clients in Pennsylvania, which includes townships, boroughs, hospitals, fire departments, and all levels of government. I cannot invest in it. So I like to talk about that being a very successful operation, and I'm still active with it and still meet with them as a consultant. So I find that is a very exciting moment for me, and it works right in with my banking skills.
What other positions did you hold in politics besides the borough council?
I was president of the borough council. I was mayor of the borough of Chambersburg, and I served as chairman of the board of commissioners for 8 years in Franklin County. And of course, before that, I served as judge of election and all those sort of things leading up to the political life.
One of the things we like to ask people of your age is, where were you and what do you remember about when you heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
I was a chip at that time, and it was very. We were in school. We were very much upset about that. Yes. In talking about Pearl Harbor, I was in Pearl Harbor on the 40th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, 1981, and was out on the Arizona. But that was a dastardly trick by the Japanese, and I have not held out against the Japanese to this day. I have been involved in what we call our Sister City program. And I have been to Japan twice, to Gatemba, and I've been to the craziest city in the world, Hong Kong, twice. Across the South China Sea on a hydrofoil, and have been up as far as Canton in China, and came back on a high-speed train.
When you go into the military, there are certain things that they teach you or that make you a little different than a civilian. Is there anything you can think of that you learned while you were in the military that served you in the rest of your life?
How to get along with others extremely well. Everyone was a brother, a comrade. I never had a brother, so they were my closest friends, yes, and still are.
You then kept in touch with some of your friends from the military afterwards?
We've had a few reunions, and now I don't hear from one. They're all gone. And we talked about their being all gone. My high school class, they're all gone. I'm the only remaining member of the class of 1939.
So you said your birthday, but people probably are not going to keep this in mind as they're watching you. Can you say how old you are?
I'm 102 years old, and my birthday comes up on June the 13th, and I'll be 103. I was born in 1921.
Do we have any you want to ask me?
I guess my question would be, what would you tell young people? What advice would you have for young people? You've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot, you've met a lot of people. What would be one thing that you'd share with younger generations?
To the younger generation, and I do go to the school and speak occasionally, I would encourage them to get an education, to do especially education. That's very important today. And the other thing that I would advise them to do is to keep a clean life. No drugs, no smoking, and no drinking. So, young people today, I was out to dinner, took my son out to dinner on Monday night. His birthday he's an April Fool boy, he was 73. And we went to the Japanese hibachi grill. There was a young guy there in 7th grade, sat beside me, and he was the most impressive young man for a young child that I could remember. And his mother and father are both military, and they brought that child up to respect older people like me. And I finally said to him, well, where did you go to school? Where do you go to school? Well, I'm in 7th grade. I said, well, where? He said, I'm homeschooled. So, and he was very, very bright. I couldn't believe how bright he was. Everything was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you. And he shook hands with me, and then he went over and told his dad and mother who I was, and man, they came over, and they were both Marines.
Hmm.
So I have a good word for the Marines.
Would you like to explain the medal that you're wearing?
The medal I'm wearing is a medal that that Mark Keller, the House of Representatives from Perry County, presented me with. And Mark and I became very good friends when he ran for office, because his office territory extended over all the way to Chambersburg to Hamilton Township. And he came to Chambersburg looking for somebody to get him some votes in Hamilton Township. And my wife and I were just delighted to become acquainted with him. And he presented me then with this medal. And I like to wear it. You don't see them very often. I put it on just for you tonight.
Well, thank you.
Tell them about the World War II Museum in Gettysburg.
The World War II Museum in Gettysburg. You've been there, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. You?
I have not.
I'm an honorary member, of course, there. And I'm so saddened that Frank passed away. We were over that day, and I was supposed to see, what's the lady's name from? Beverly, yeah. Do you know Beverly?
I think I met her.
She on a wheelchair. Okay. Anyhow, I was supposed to meet her that day, and when I was there looking around, I met Mrs. Buck and their son, very nice people. I said I was looking for Frank, and she said, well, you know, Frank wasn't feeling well, and he went home. When I got home here, he had a massive heart attack and died.
Mm.
Great guy. That museum is very outstanding, you know. There are things there that I never saw being in the service. I lived kind of a sheltered life somewhat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you spend the entire time in England when you were during World War II, or when the troops moved ashore, did you?
Entire time in England. After the war, before I came home, we we did some we did some accessible damage while flying into Wiesbaden, low level, and B-17s and 24. So I did get to Germany, and I got to France, especially down in Marseille and Avignon. Germany, where I was in Germany, is very much like Pennsylvania right here. I loved Wiesbaden and Garmisch and Munich and all those areas. Never got into Berlin.
Yeah, we flew to Munich a couple of years ago, and as I was flying in, I said, "This looks like Lancaster County."
Yeah,
No wonder they settled here when
Yeah.
when they moved to the United States.
I always said the German people are such smart people, but the dumbest people when it comes to war. They've lost 3 wars now. But they're nice people. I'm part German, of course. German, Irish, and English. I'm a mixture.
Hmm. As are most of us.
My grandmother was my grandmother's name was Hite, Hite, and just as German, and they all spoke German in my home. Uh, Grandma never had me on her knees. She never kissed me once.
Hmm.
Cold. I mean, of course, they led a cold life, getting here and settling in the country here.
Hmm.
Chewed snuff.
So, are you optimistic about things in the world today, or what are your thoughts?
I'm very worried. I think we're just about that close to World War III. We have the people today that have such a bad attitude about the war, and even when we talked on Saturday morning, when the soldiers came back from Vietnam, they were told that they shouldn't wear their uniforms. They were, it was a not unpopular war. Well, they couldn't help it.
Right.
So they're now starting to recognize Vietnam veterans. The thing that was so noticeable on Saturday morning, there wasn't one Korean War veteran there.
Oh, they're getting up there as well.
I suspect I'm talked out.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing your story.